Says pre-live. Good morning and welcome to the January edition of Clean Air Zone Business Clinics. I think my colleague is having some slight technical difficulties with getting the slides up on screen at the moment. So my name is Peter Edwards. I'm the Principal Clean Air Zone Officer at Birmingham City Council. And what we're going to do today is to give you a quick run through of our presentation, to give you an update on the Clean Air Zone, when it's going live, how it will operate, why it is needed, and then perhaps most importantly for the audience today, information on the support and exemptions available. So I will be setting the scene, as it were, talking about exemptions, and then my colleague Kanchan, who works on the HDV fund, which is a large fund, a pot of funding that we have, will give you some more detail on that, and then we're going to finish off talking about how the Clean Air Zone fits in to some of the other measures that Birmingham City Council is implementing through its transport plan, and available support that's available for you as workplaces to perhaps create travel plans and support your staff travelling into work.
Sorry to interrupt, Pete. I think we've got some technical issues. I can't actually see anybody live at the moment.
Oh.
It was a good run through. Nothing is showing us live. There's no Q&A.
There's no participants.
0 participants. So something's going on. I don't know what. Bear with me. Sorry, guys.
Would we be able to tell if there is anyone there? You would.
Yeah.
You would
can see in the participants, I think, or in the.
I was just wondering, maybe there isn't anyone at this moment yet.
It's unusual to have 0 though, and also the Q&A section isn't showing. Oh, there we go. We are live now. We've got 8 attendees. Apologies for those who've just joined. We've had some technical issues this morning. Pete, I'll hand over to you.
Okay. So I've just done a bit of an intro, and I'm unsure as to whether we were live or if we had any participants at that point. Can if anybody just write in the chat if you heard that intro? I don't want to repeat it again if it's not necessary. It sounds like some people were. I can see. Okay. Well, I'll do the introduction again. So, hi, good morning. My name is Peter Edwards, Principal Clean Air Zone Officer for Birmingham City Council. Thanks for joining our January edition of our Clean Air Zone Business Clinic. We're going to be running these on a monthly basis, so you've got colleagues or other people who couldn't join today. These will be every month in the run-up to the Clean Air Zone going live. And what we're here today to do is to give you an overview of the Clean Air Zone, why we need the Clean Air Zone, how it will operate, when it will go live, and what support is available for you as a business, your staff. And then we'll hand over to my colleague Kanchan, who works on our HDV fund. So that's a £10 million pot of funding that is available for HDVs, obviously, as the name implies. And then we'll round off with some information about the Birmingham Emergency Transport Plan, how the Clean Air Zone fits into that, and then we will have Q&A at the end. But the Q&A is open now, so type your questions in as and when you want. And then my colleague Gemma, who you may have heard at the beginning of the call, is going to kind of prompt me and Kanchan to answer those questions at the end. So you can ask the questions as they pop into your head, but we will address them at the end of the webinar. So Gemma, can you get those full screen, or are we still having some difficulties? Whilst looks like we're having a few difficulties getting, oh no, we're not. So if you just go straight to the next one, Gemma, thank you. So why are we doing a Clean Air Zone? The Clean Air Zone is in response to a public health emergency in Birmingham. I'm not going to read through everything that's on your screen. There's some fairly startling stats, up to 900 deaths a year. I think what's key to emphasise is that air pollution, poor air quality, affects the most vulnerable in our society. So you're talking about elderly people, young people, people in more deprived areas. These are the people who are feeling the worst effects in our city and nationally and internationally from poor air quality. And I think what's also quite startling is that buses and taxi drivers, people who are on the road a lot, are exposed to 3 times more air pollution than anyone else. And you can see some of the rather unpleasant diseases that poor air quality is linked to down the left-hand side. So if we just move on to the next slide, please. So we're in a challenging situation, and that's why Clean Air Zone is required. The majority of Birmingham's vehicle fleet are cars. And diesel cars account for almost half of the NOx emissions. So that's nitrous oxide. That's the poisonous stuff coming out of the exhaust emissions in this city. So we've got a big issue with too many private cars, too many cars on the road, and diesel emissions are really a big part of that. Next slide, please, Gemma. So in response to those issues that I've just laid out, this is what Birmingham City Council is going to do. We're going to implement a clean air zone from the 1st of June 2021. You'll see there that it says CAZ D. So that means that it's a category D clean air zone, and that is the most stringent clean air zone that can be implemented, which reflects the size of the issue we have. So as part of our clean air zone, you can see across the bottom there all the vehicles that will be charged, will be included in our clean air zone. So you've got buses, taxis, HGVs, light goods vehicles, and then private vehicles as well. So you may be aware that other cities such as Bath, who are coming online in March, are not charging private vehicles. Greater Manchester, I think they're in consultation at the moment, but they're not proposing to charge private vehicles, but they're covering the whole of Greater Manchester. So each city, each region is taking a different approach to this depending on the issues that they have in our city. So from the 1st of June 2021, if you drive on any road within the middle ring road itself, so that's the A4540, not the ring road itself, so you can go round the outside, but once you pass inside that zone in a non-compliant vehicle, so that is a vehicle that does not meet the compliance standards. It's important to stress that this is not a congestion charge. Not all vehicles will be charged. When the modelling was done for this in 2017, 2018, around 75% of vehicles were compliant anyway, and you would hope that in the 3 years that have passed with all the delays to the Clean Air Zone implementation, that figure would be even lower as the fleet, Birmingham's fleet, is naturally upgraded. So if you aren't a Euro 6 diesel or a Euro 4 petrol, you will be expected to pay a daily charge. It's shown on screen, which is £8 for cars and taxis and light goods vehicles like vans, £50 for HGVs, coaches and buses. A couple of technical details about how it will operate. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And the zone, and this is an important point, the zone will operate on a midnight to midnight basis. So if you enter the zone at 1 AM, you can come in and out of the zone as many times as you want until 23:59, 11:59 the next evening. That's one charge. However, if you enter the zone at 10 PM and leave at 2 AM on the following day, that's 2 charges. So I think that's a really important point. So it's midnight to midnight. So that's how the zone will operate. It will be operated by ANPR cameras all around the boundary and within the zone. And it's important to note that, and there's 300 plus signs, I think most of them are already up. So you will know you're driving into the zone, but what's important also to add is that you won't receive a notification or a text message or an email saying you've driven into the zone, you need to pay. It will be the driver's responsibility in order to pay. You will have 6 days before you enter the zone, the day that you are in the zone, and then 6 days prior. So you have a 13-day window to pay your fee. After that, you would be issued with a PCN, a penalty charge notice, for £120, which would be reduced to 60 if paid within 14 days. Next slide, please, Gemma. So the Clean Air Zone has three key goals of what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the amount of journeys that need to be made. We're trying to shift some of those journeys. These are essential journeys, and we're trying to shift some of them to public transport, walking and cycling. And those journeys that absolutely have to be driven and have to be driven into the zone, through the zone, we are trying to improve the exhaust emissions of those vehicles, so to clean up the emissions of those trips by stimulating the take-up of cleaner vehicles. Next slide, please. So we know that this is a new concept outside of London. We're the first, we'll be the third actually, because Bath will go online in March. We'll be one of the first cities to implement a clean air zone. And when the consultation went out in 2018, I think there was some misunderstanding or misinterpretation of what the consultation was. It wasn't, shall we do a clean air zone? That was mandated by government. We had to do a clean air zone. It was, how should we do it and who should we support? And that consultation received something like 11,000 responses, one of the biggest, no, not one of the biggest responses Birmingham City Council has ever had to a consultation. And what that consultation identified was who should be supported. And as you can see on screen here, the first line of support that we're offering is through exemptions, these temporary exemptions. So people that live within the clean air zone can access a 2-year exemption for their non-compliant vehicles. People who travel to work in the clean air zone, what I refer to as a clean air zone worker, a CAZ worker, a clean air zone worker, and earn less than £30,000 a year, can also access a 1-year exemption. And perhaps that one and the next one, the commercial vehicles registered within the clean air zone, can also access a 1-year exemption. So that might be yourself as a business if you're operating within the zone. The other one is obviously people visiting Children's Hospital and the other 2 services offering out of hours or emergency services. They will be able to access an exemption as well. Next slide, please, Gemma. There are also a range of slightly more specialist or national exemptions available. So it's important to note that if you have a blue badge, you're not exempt from the clean air zone. However, if your vehicle has a disabled passenger tax classification that's listed on the V5 because you're in receipt of certain disability benefits, then your vehicle will have a national exemption, an automatic national exemption from all clean air zones across the country. Motorcycles are exempt, historic vehicles, so vehicles over 40 years old, showman's vehicles, so that's vehicles used for travelling fairs. Specialist vehicles includes things like recovery vehicles, emergency vehicles, snow ploughs, and then finally community and school transport. So this is your ring and ride sort of services. They will also have an exemption. Next slide, please. So we're talking about the exemptions. They are there, the temporary exemptions, they are there to provide people with some breathing room to work out what they're going to do. Are they going to upgrade their fleet? Are they going to travel somewhere somehow differently? The schemes you see on screen now are there to help people upgrade and transition to cleaner, greener vehicles. So we've got £35 million from government. We asked for more. We always ask for more support. There's certain things where you can't access support, but we asked for more, and this is what we got. So £10 million offered to people that work in the clean air zone in the form of a scrappage scheme, which will come online in the next few months before the scheme goes live, whereby if you take your non-compliant vehicle off the road with our chosen scrappage supplier, you will then get £2,000 off the price of a compliant vehicle. Or you can get a mobility credit, so a Swift card. So you take your vehicle off the road and we'll give you £2,000 on a Swift card, and you've got close to 2 years of kind of travel on the public transport network. The HGV fund, which my colleague Kanchan is going to cover in a moment, so I won't go into detail with that. And then there's a £15 million pot of funding for taxi drivers and private hire drivers and hackney carriage drivers. And as you can imagine, this has been incredibly popular. I think colleagues have said over 1,000 applications successful so far. So that's cleaning up our vehicle fleet so they can upgrade to hybrid or electric or simply to compliant vehicles. So that's all the funding that's available. And I think the next slide should be for Kanchan, if I hand over. Yeah, there you go. I will mute myself and for Kanchan. You're on, Kanchan, you're on mute. You need to start again.
Morning, everyone. That was a good start. Yeah, what I was saying is, as Pete has mentioned, it is a new initiative, and hence it is important we get this right, and mainly the HTV funds are administered in accordance with de minimis state aid regulations. Hence, we and since January, the 1st of January, the regulations have changed. So we are seeing the implications of this on our funds, because we are heavily regulated through these regulations, and we want to make sure that how we are administering it is still according to or within what the regulations set out. So the presentation today and what the offer is as it stands now is what I will be presenting, but there might be a slight changes depending on what our legal person advises, legal team advises us on that. But if there are any changes, we will make sure we communicate with all our stakeholders, and also we will put it up on the website. So as it stands now, the offer is, the total funds we have is 10.05 million. And this is to support the SMEs. And depending on the nature of the business, we support the total grant package for SMEs, which are non-road freight transport for hire or reward, is up to 200,000 euros. And for SMEs, which are road freight transport for hire or reward, is up to 100,000 to contribute towards the following. It could be for installation of an accredited retrofit technology that makes vehicles clean air zone, or you can purchase or lease a compliant vehicle, or you can relocate or lease. We will pay towards these costs. So next slide, please, Gemma. So this is the definition as it stands for road freight transport within the funds remit. The maximum, like we said, for road freight, it would be 100,000 euros per SME. And this, we use euros, it's because, like I said, we are regulated. We administer under the de minimis state aid regulations. So they use the euro sign. So we have to fit in with their limits, that so to speak. So within that, if you are a road freight transport business, you will be able to apply for retrofit of a non-compliant vehicle, and we could pay 15,000 towards it, or we could pay relocation or exit lease costs for you up to 15,000 again. For non-road freight transport, we would pay up to 200,000, and that will include your retrofit, your relocation or exit lease costs, or purchase or lease of a vehicle. We can support you up to 15,000 per vehicle to a limit of 200,000. Next slide, Gemma, please. The eligibility criteria of the program is that you need to be an SME trading in for at least 12 months. You should own or lease a heavy-duty vehicle that is non-compliant with the clean air zone emission standards, and eligible non-compliant vehicles we mean by N2, N3 and M3 only. So, and these vehicles should be registered and located within the Birmingham's clean air zone, or you could be registered within the Birmingham area and conducting commercial operations within the clean air zone. Or also you could be within West Midlands area and conducting commercial operations within the clean air zone. So when we say you should be conducting commercial operations within the clean air zone, we expect at least you are visiting the clean air zone at least more than once a week. Within, and we're looking at about 3 months. We appreciate due to COVID, your operation level must have reduced down. So we are being flexible on that part. If you don't have enough evidence to give to this aspect, then we are looking at pre-COVID and the general nature of the business, what services you provide, and then make a decision. Next slide, please. You need to be able to, like I said just now, the frequency that you're entering into the clean air zone and the current Euro standard of eligible non-compliant vehicles, the size of your business, the base location of your vehicles. This you need to, we can assess this from how your V5C states, what address you put on there, also where your vehicle is registered, your nature of your business. It's depending on the nature. Again, it is about the road freight and non-road freight I mentioned. Next slide, please. You know the definition of road freight and non-road freight. It is you need to be. There is exception. If a business is a postal or courier or waste operators, then they are exempt from these rules. So we would administer you as a non-road freight operators. That is, we would be able to support you up to 200,000 euros. Now, evidence that we require of you during your application time is your accounts, your project funding, how you're going to fund the project, as in whatever you may be purchasing, leasing, or exit, you know, you want to relocate your business. So you need to provide us how you're going to fund that. Either it could be bank loan or your personal loan, or the business may be supporting the project itself. You need to be able to evidence to us the vehicle usage within the clean air zone. And we're looking, again, I must reiterate that it should be at least more than once a week within a period of 3 months. We also would we request you to provide V5C or MOT. We need quotes. Ignore the tendering at the moment because we're not going that route. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for the applicant. So at this moment of time, we're just wanting you to be able to get the best deal that you can. So we want you to provide the quotes, a recent bank statement, and if you are leasing a property, or then we would need evidence of that. Now, all these details here that you will find at the bottom of this link. Is there any further slide there, Jim? These are the other supports during, that are available for yourselves. That Peter, I think, touched some of it in his presentation. There is vans, there's HGVs, of course, the ones that is the electric charging point grants, that's home charging. If drivers park their vehicles at home overnight, they can receive 500 contribution towards the installation. And work charging, if your fleet has a centralized depot or car park, then the government will cover 75% of up to 20 charge points per company. So details of all these are here on the Gov UK business on the website. Yeah, we're ready to take your questions now if you have any.
Just before we take questions, I'll dive back in just to talk about some of the wider stuff that's going on, partly to do with the clean air zone, partly to do with other transport measures. So as we talked about at the beginning, the clean air zone is being used as an enabler of change to shift people to think about how they travel, upgrade their fleets. So you can see on the screen here, we've recently signed a contract to install, I think, 300 plus electric vehicle charging points across the city. That they should start to go in 2021 because there's not enough, frankly, in the city at the moment. Funding from central government has been used. Some of our funding that we received for the clean air zone has been used to purchase 20 hydrogen buses, which should hit the streets of Birmingham this year or next year. There's also one of our other schemes, as we know that the Hackney carriage market it's not so easy to drive a compliant Hackney carriage. So, and we know that lots of drivers are kind of on the edge of retirement, might be retiring in 3 or 4 years. Do they really want to invest in a I think they're about £60,000 electric black cab? Probably not. So we have a pot of funding available where we're looking to tender out and to buy some of those vehicles and then lease them out to drivers, so that the Hackney fleet is also upgraded, because it's a very important part of the taxi fleet as well as private hire. If you move us on, Gemma. So Modeshift STARS is a workplace tool that colleagues from a different team at Birmingham City Council who weren't able to attend today can help you provide a travel plan for you and your staff. So they can do a kind of an audit of your facilities, your location, you can do a travel survey to work out obviously an evidence base of how your staff are already travelling, what are the barriers to them travelling more sustainably, that sort of thing. And then they can, through this Modeshift STARS, they can create a travel plan for you, and you can gain kind of bronze, silver, gold levels of accreditation. So you can see here, you can email the team at connected@birmingham.gov.uk, and there's the website Modeshift STARS. So Birmingham City Council has bought a license so that any Birmingham-based business can input their information into this and use this service. And finally, just to touch on the next slide of the emergency transport plan. So pre-COVID, Birmingham City Council announced the Birmingham Transport Plan with 4 main elements, visions, which you can see on screen here. And this all ties in together with the clean air zone in terms of, first of all, reallocating and prioritising road space away from private motor vehicles, giving it back to people walking, cycling and using public transport. Some of these measures have already started to come in a response to COVID, so providing cycle lanes, bus priority, that sort of thing. There is a vision to transform the city centre to make it easier for people, again, walking, cycling and using public transport. Prioritising active travel in local neighbourhoods. So this involves the implementation of something called low traffic neighbourhoods, which one has gone in Kings Heath, one has gone in Lozells. So there's some measures in Bourneville and Castle Vale to improve conditions for people to walk. So a statistic that I think wasn't on the slide was that 250,000 car journeys, I think it's a year in this city, are less than 1 mile, and these are the journeys that we really need to convert to people walking and cycling wherever possible. So prioritising active travel in the city centre, but then also in people's local neighbourhoods. And then finally, managing the demand, using parking as a management demand tool. So removing free parking, removing some parking altogether to discourage people from driving into the city centre and to other areas, and to, again, repeating myself, to walk, cycle or use public transport. So this is the transport plan, and the emergency transport plan is all online at the moment, and there is a platform called Commonplace where a lot of the schemes, you can comment on them, you can see more detailed plans. So I think that completes the slides. On the end here, we just have some contact details. So our website is brumbreathes.co.uk. There's a wealth of information on our website. You can sign up for a monthly newsletter, check your vehicle is compliant or not, apply for exemptions, apply for funding. And then if you can't find the answer you need, We also have cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk, which comes to the main Clean Air team. And then if you have an inquiry that is specific to do with the HDB fund that Kanchan was just detailing, obviously it's HDB at Birmingham. And there's a typo there, apologies, I just added that this morning, birmingham.gov.uk. So that completes the presentation. I appreciate we've been talking a lot and you've been looking at slides, and I can see that there are 9 questions waiting to be published that Gemma is now publishing for us. Thank you. So just let me have a drink of water before we kick into these questions. First question is about how are we dealing with diesel trains coming into Birmingham New Street? Well, Birmingham City Council doesn't have any control over the trains, but the government does. And what I was just doing in response to that question while Kanchan was presenting, the government has put forward, I've put a link there, something decarbonising transport, and within that document they have set out a target for all trains nationally to be electric by 2040, and actually trains, it says here 10%, the emissions from trains were 10% lower in 2019 than they were in 2018, so the trend is going down. 70% of passenger rail vehicles are already electric powered, so it's just a job now to get the rest of those over to electric, but Birmingham City Council unfortunately cannot do a great deal about that, but the government is looking at it. And if we're looking at these wider carbon targets of net zero, then the train industry will have to join in as well. Will you be looking at park and ride into Birmingham? The issue with park and ride, well, not the issue, one of the complications with park and ride is that a lot of the sites where you need park and ride is not actually in Birmingham or on Birmingham City Council land. There is one, and it should be online by now, going in at Longbridge, by Longbridge Station, I'm aware of. Most of the train stations on the network offer park and ride services, but I'm not aware of a large swathe of funding at the moment going into park and ride for Birmingham locations, no. Question here about living and working in Neutrals. However, so yeah, Neutrals is kind of on the border, is not within the zone, so unlikely to get a residence exemption. You mentioned car parking. One of the things that Clean Air Zone revenue can be used for, and I didn't touch on this on the presentation, so as part of this answer we'll do that, is for well, firstly, funding from the Clean Air Zone can only be used to improve public transport, sustainable transport methods. One of the things that it can be used for is for parking, controlled parking zones. So one of those is going in Highgate at the moment in response to some of these concerns about people dumping their cars and then walking into the city centre. So Neutrals may already have been identified for one of those. And if not, and an issue arises, a lot of study work has been done and funding will be there to address those problems. Charity vehicles are not exempt unless they are a commercial vehicle registered within the Clean Air Zone. So there isn't a specific exemption available for charity vehicles. But if it is a commercial vehicle registered within the CAZ, then it can absolutely access an exemption. We operate a business within the CAZ. We use 4 vehicles, including 1 HGV. Will all 4 vehicles benefit from a 1-year exemption? Apologies, that's my bad. I should have stated that on the commercial vehicle exemption, you can exempt up to 2 vehicles. So you will be able to exempt 2 of those vehicles should you meet the correct criteria. All the terms and conditions are on the website. I can put a link here. And if you wanted to have a more detailed conversation, please just email cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. But the commercial vehicle exemption is for up to 2 vehicles, with a slight bit of wiggle room if you've got finance agreements on those vehicles. So have a look at the terms and conditions on the website. Go and apply, and if you can't find the answers you need, like specifically, then and if you email cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk, we'll pick that up. Why doesn't the scrappage scheme help those who live in poor communities bordering the CAZ, particularly as they can't afford to upgrade old cars? So that's to do with the consultation. The consultation identified that people who live within the CAZ and work within the CAZ should be the ones that receive the most support. What is challenging is you have to balance the needs to support people with the overall arching aim of the clean air zone, which is to achieve compliance. So if we give out too many exemptions, then we won't achieve the compliance and the air quality will remain the same. So unfortunately, obviously the previous question, we haven't got an exemption for charity vehicles. We haven't got an exemption for volunteers. There was calls to give exemptions to people going to places of worship within the CAZ. Not all of the exemptions are available. We don't have a supporting package for vans, for light goods vehicles. We asked for it from central government, we didn't get it. So unfortunately, we have to balance the needs to achieve compliance and to improve the air quality, which is having these horrible impacts that we talked about right at the beginning, with also supporting. So there unfortunately aren't exemptions or financial support packages available for everyone. Why is the support only short term? Similar answer, because the exemptions are there to give people breathing space and to enable people to work out what they're going to do. So a resident has 2 years, can they to potentially change the vehicle. The worker has 1 year and potentially can access the scrappage scheme. And just to say, yet again, the council will not be cashing in on the charges. Those charges, the funds can only be used for sustainable transport measures. They can't be used to pay the bin men or to pay for redecoration of the town hall. That is set in law. Any funds made by the clean air zone have to be used for public transport or sustainable transport improvements. So if the clean air zone makes a lot of money, we've failed because nobody's changed their behaviour. Everyone's just driving in and paying the fee. So what we need to do is not make a lot of money, because therefore then people will have changed the way that they're travelling and they're not paying the charges. Primary and secondary schools within the CAZ have special exemptions. So if the school is based in the zone and the staff work there and they earn less than £30,000 a year, then yes, they will be able to access an exemption for those staff. Similarly, if the parents live within the zone or work within the zone, they can also get an exemption, but there is not an exemption for schools specifically. Safe walking initiatives. Would you walk through Aston Lascelles? There are various initiatives to improve cycling and walking and public transport throughout the city. I don't know specifically around Aston Lascelles, Neatshaws, Handsworth, but it's not just about getting people to walk, it's about getting people to cycle, to use public transport. But if you look at the Birmingham Emergency Transport Plan, then you'll be able to see specific plans perhaps around those areas that you reference. As far as I can see, I think that's all of the questions. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes in case there's any more. Just to say, this has been recorded, I think, Gemma, and we will send slides and some further information to everyone who registered. So if you've got colleagues or people who wanted to attend but couldn't in the end, then you can forward that on for us, or we can send it to them if they did in fact register. But yeah, please go to our website. There's a wealth of information on there. And if there's no further questions, my clock says 9:39. I'll give it to 9:40, and then if not, we'll end the call. But thank you very much for joining the call today. I hope you found it useful. And yeah, just to reiterate, please use our website as a resource. But I'll just go on mute just for 30 seconds, just in case anything further. Okay, it doesn't look like anything else coming through. So thanks once again. I will end the call now. Thank you very much. Cheers.